Okay, so if you're watching this video, you've probably tried a bunch of different strategies for beating procrastination. And while some of them are okay, a lot of them just don't tend to work. I've gotten straight A pluses for the last 3.5 years of my studies in engineering. And part of the reason why is because I've actually been able to find out what actually does work for beating procrastination. The biggest reason why most techniques for beating procrastination don't actually work is because they operate under the assumption that procrastination is a time management issue or an energy management issue. They think that procrastination comes from, being lazy or not properly managing your time. But realistically, procrastination is not an energy management issue, and it is not a time management issue. It is an emotional management issue. So in this video, we're going to discuss that and talk about how we can use that idea to address procrastination at its root cause and to help you mitigate it a lot better. So as the first point, like I said earlier, procrastination doesn't come from bad time management, it doesn't come from bad energy management, it comes from emotions. And so pretty much, right, when you have a task ahead of you that you don't want to do, okay, your brain generates, emotions based on that task, right? You might have some, boredom. You might have some uncertainty about how you're going to start that. You might have some doubt. You might be daunted by a really big task. But essentially, your brain generates a bunch of negative emotions. And so, what do you think your brain wants to do? Well, your brain will want to get rid of these emotions. And how can it do that? Well, there's pretty much two ways, right? One option is that you can, do the task. And once you do the task, well, you don't need to be bored anymore because the task is done. You don't need to be uncertain about it because the task is done. You don't have any doubt about it. The task is done, etc. Right? So that's one way to solve this problem. You do the task and those emotions, those bad emotions, disappear. But the other option, and this is the one that most people end up choosing because it's easier, is to procrastinate, okay? You feel these negative emotions and your brain thinks, okay, how can we find our way out, okay? And the easiest way to find your way out is to procrastinate, okay? By choosing not to do the task, by choosing to watch TV or go on your social media or whatever it is, okay? You get to escape from these negative emotions, okay? You get to escape from being bored because you get a short dopamine hit on Instagram. You get to escape from the uncertainty and the doubt of the assignment because the movie you watch on TV helps you forget about that. And so procrastination is actually a very human response. There is some negative input into your brain, okay? And your brain wants to find the easiest way out. And the easiest way out is just to procrastinate because that is easier than actually doing the task. And so this is where a lot of procrastination techniques come in. A lot of procrastination techniques aim to either weaken the, path or the desire to procrastinate or to strengthen the desire to do the task. It's either making procrastination harder or making doing the task easier, okay? Right? Like you have certain things like breaking up a big task into a smaller task. Well, that's making doing the task easier. Or you have setting a timer when you work. That's an effort to make doing the task easier. And then you have other techniques that aim to weaken the, path to procrastination, right? So for example, putting your phone in another room. Well, now it is that much more difficult to procrastinate. That path is harder to take. Or you might do certain things like deleting social media or quitting video games for a period of time because that makes procrastination that much more difficult because you don't have that thing to go and procrastinate to. And so this is kind of the issue for most people because most people are here. They choose, one of these techniques and yes, they work sometimes, but those things are kind of temporary solutions and they don't always work. And they definitely don't address, the root cause of where that procrastination comes from, okay? So I want to offer you two alternative solutions that will work a lot more generally. So the first option, the first solution we have is understanding that, procrastination, like I said earlier, is a very human response, okay? And so, yeah, when you have a task ahead of you, your brain will generate a desire to procrastinate, right? But do you need to act on it, okay? Many people, right? Many people feel an emotion, okay? And based on that emotion, they will act on it all the time. But what if you just didn't? What if you felt the emotion, accepted it for what it was, and just didn't choose to act anyways, right? If you're hungry, you have the ability to not eat. You can go and eat, right? You might feel that emotion, I want to go and eat, but you are capable of choosing not to eat. And of course, there's other situations too. Like if you're feeling angry, you can choose to, lash out at somebody, but you can also choose to just not, okay? So just because you're feeling that emotion doesn't mean you need to act necessarily. You can just cut this out and say, hey, I'm accepting this emotion. I feel this emotion. I'm choosing not to act on it anyways. So in the case of procrastination, understand that procrastination is a natural response to having a task ahead of you that you really don't, feel like doing or are uncertain about. And understanding that, you can just say, I feel like procrastinating, and then choosing not to do it anyways and choosing to do the task anyways. That is totally within your control. And I know this is essentially just discipline, but I'm mentioning it anyways because it is an important tool to have when your other stuff doesn't work, right? And also think about this, right? When you feel the desire to procrastinate and you choose to do the work anyways, okay, that leads to some level of discomfort. Of course, you want to procrastinate, you feel the desire to procrastinate, but you're gonna have that discomfort when you're doing that work, okay? But, when that work is done, that discomfort is gone and you completed your work. Now, when you procrastinate, you will likely, have some discomfort regardless. Because every once in a while when you're watching that TV show, when you're, doing something, when you should be working, you're gonna have that thought pop up and be like, yeah, I was supposed to do that work. I still got that work ahead of me. So you're gonna have that discomfort anyways. Plus, okay, you also get more discomfort from the, discomfort that would come from not making progress towards your goals, all right? Yes, is doing work that you don't want to do a little bit annoying? Yeah, that provides some discomfort, okay? But when you procrastinate it, you're gonna feel some discomfort anyways from not doing that work because of course you know that you should be. And overall, your life will probably have more discomfort because you're not making progress in the things that matter to you. It's like for people who are starting going to the gym, right? Is it a little bit, is there some discomfort when you're starting to go to the gym? Yes, it takes some effort, it takes some energy to go and train. Now, how does that discomfort compare to the discomfort of being unhealthy and sick because you never went to the gym when you were younger and you didn't exercise and you didn't eat clean, right? There's one that is like a small temporary discomfort of going to do a hard task. And there's one that's like a lifelong, persistent discomfort that's always going to be with you. So the discomfort from doing that task is actually a lot better and a lot preferred to the discomfort that would come from, not making progress towards the things that matter, or not like, putting effort into the things that are good for you. And so the next time you feel the need to procrastinate, you can think, do I want to procrastinate right now? Yes, you can accept that. And then you can say, like, is there going to be discomfort by choosing to do the work? And you can say, yes, there's going to be discomfort by choosing to do the work, but I'm going to do the work anyways because that discomfort is preferable to the discomfort that I would get from procrastinating and not doing the work. So by just accepting and understanding that procrastination, it will surely help to, build a mindset where you can procrastinate less. Now, by understanding that discomfort and choosing to do the task, that is a step up from, the previous procrastination techniques that we talked about earlier. But it still doesn't address the root cause. Like, why do we feel this doubt, uncertainty, and boredom? Why do we always want to go into procrastinate? Now I'm going to take it one step further and just totally eliminate the desire to procrastinate at all. So we talked about earlier how when people feel the need to procrastinate, they will often escape to something else in order to, remove those bad feelings that they feel. They will escape to social media or TV or something in order to not feel the negative emotions. Now, what if we just completely eliminated that desire to escape? So, to do that, we would need to understand, why do people choose to escape, okay? And people will generally choose to escape because they want to escape to something, better than their current life, okay? So suppose like day to day, you're cruising by with, a 4 or 5 out of 10, enjoyment of life, okay? It's low, but let's call it that, okay? And so you're going through your day and then some task comes up and you choose to escape in order to, escape the negative emotions, right? So when you escape, you typically escape to something, better than what you're currently at, right? You wouldn't escape to something worse, right? If you're a very fit person, you really wouldn't watch content on somebody who is like not as fit as you, right? You'd want to watch content from somebody ahead of you so that you can like learn stuff, right? So you're always going to escape to something higher. So in this case, some task comes up, right? You have an assignment or project to do. And so you choose, instead of doing that, you choose to escape to something better, call it, social media. And that's like a 6 out of 10 activity to you, okay? And so you choose to escape up to the social media. And then you're on social media for a bit. And once you're off, you dip back down to your baseline and really, no solution there. You still don't want to do the work. But, what if our baseline was up here? What if our baseline was an 8, okay? Keep in mind that, the 6 out of 10 is escapism. If our baseline is now an 8, when the time comes to do that task, why would we want to escape down to, something that's worse than the life we're currently living or the thing that we're currently doing, right? Why would we want to escape down to a 6 out of 10 if we enjoy the work as it is as a 7 out of 10 or an 8 out of 10, right? There's just no reason why we would ever want to choose that. And so this path just doesn't happen. If you enjoy work as an 8 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10, right, you're going to stick through and just do that work anyways. So how can we make that happen? And how can we just enjoy the day-to-day, the work, the gym, the fitness, how can we make those hard things be higher on this scale than the escapism, okay? Because if we have that increase, if the harder thing is better than what we're escaping to, you won't want to escape down to it, and you won't feel the need to procrastinate because this is just an enjoyable activity, right? So we just got to find a way to increase our enjoyment of studying, of, gym, of the hard activities, right? And so I have a whole nother video on it here, but we'll quickly go through it as well. Okay, so we're going to do a quick interruption here because my explanation for how to actually improve your enjoyment of studying and day-to-day was pretty poor. So pretty much, if you do want to enjoy your studying more and the hard tasks more, it comes down to understanding why you don't enjoy them in the first place, okay? And you probably don't enjoy them in the first place because you're so used to more overstimulating things, okay? So it's like if you constantly eat unhealthy food, chips, donuts, all this stuff tastes really nice, okay? But in choosing to eat that unhealthy food, now when you go to eat healthy food, that healthy food, you don't get as much enjoyment from it because you're so used to the overstimulation from the unhealthy food. You're so used to like that sweetness or that processed food, right? And so, if we want to enjoy the healthy food, well, what's the solution? It's to just eat less unhealthy food because then you're not experiencing that overstimulation and you just get the contentment that comes from, eating well, right? And so the same thing applies to studying. If we want to enjoy our studying, well, what do we need to do? We need to cut out the bad habits, the bad dopamine habits. That would include like scrolling and watching TV and watching too many movies, right? All this stuff is highly stimulating. And so if you're so used to, constantly watching TV, constantly scrolling on your phone, constantly doing these things, playing video games, then when it comes to study, how are you going to be expected to enjoy studying if you're so used to all these other bad habits, right? So overall, by cutting out bad habits, you remove that overstimulation and you allow your brain to enjoy the good habits a lot more. You can see that by, removing these bad habits, by removing the bad decisions, okay, the general, trajectory of our life enjoyment goes up, okay? And when it goes up, we can, increase it above the level of escapism, as we see right here. And all of a sudden, you don't want to escape anymore, okay? Or you'll be far less pulled to escape. And this really does make sense. Let's say you're on vacation with friends, you're doing a bunch of fun stuff. You don't really ever have that need or that desire to go and escape and, go on your phone and go on social media and do all these things because you're just enjoying your life. It's at a much higher level of enjoyment, okay? And so why don't we bring that baseline enjoyment during your day-to-day life above the escapism, okay? And then you just won't want to escape down to it. And how do we do that? Well, again, through building good habits. And for the full explanation of this whole, plot and how you can use that to enjoy studying and enjoy the day-to-day, there's a full video on it here. So altogether, those are the two things that allowed me to improve my ability to mitigate procrastination in my studies. It's accepting that, there's going to be some discomfort with it and understanding that discomfort that comes from doing tasks is not as bad as the discomfort you get from procrastinating. And B is just, building up better habits so you don't want to procrastinate nearly as much. The big takeaway I want you to have is that procrastination isn't because you're lazy. It's not because you manage your energy poorly or you manage your time poorly. It's just a natural human response. And by accepting that and choosing not to act, or by improving your habits, you can counteract that response. So I hope this video can help you with procrastination so that you can live a better, more fulfilled student life.